Welcome, everybody, to another one of the Entrepreneurial Skills Sessions. My name is Joseph Lanzillotta. I am the Student Entrepreneurship Program Manager for Tangent, Trinity's Ideas Workspace, and these sessions are my way of walking everybody through one of my favorite toolkits online. We might do more in the future, but we're starting out with the Techstars Entrepreneurs Toolkit. For anybody who doesn't know, the Entrepreneurs Toolkit is a series of guides for various topics that entrepreneurs and innovators and even just individuals run into in life in developing their businesses. And my job is to walk you through it. So I'm here to answer questions and facilitate anything that may come up in the comments. If you do have questions, comments, concerns, anything you'd like to share, please do put it in the comments. I see a number of people. I'm going to say welcome back, Colin. Welcome back, Joseph. Welcome back, Molly. Everybody, I am happy to have you all here. For anybody who's new, I will be walking through a series of videos that we have on just here. So we start with the trailer and go through the rest of the videos. And it is interactive. The reason I'm here is to learn alongside you. This specific session I have not gone through myself. I've gone through a number of these, but this one today I haven't myself. So I'll be taking notes and I'll be kind of commenting back, but I'm here to be a part of the conversation with you guys and help to whatever extent I can. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. As you see at the top of the screen, we are on topic 13, how to navigate co-founder relationships. So one of the biggest factors that break up a company is the co-founder relationships going south, featured throughout Thought Leader Nicole Glaros, partner and chief investment officer at Techstars, has helped co-founders develop a strong communication framework to get through difficult times and build healthy relationships as the company grows. From talking about the elephant in the room to setting clear goals, these 7 steps to founder communication success can help save your relationship and company. Now, for anybody who has seen any videos or tutorials on entrepreneurship before, you may have heard that the team is one of the biggest factors considered in the success of a startup. It absolutely is, and having a good relationship with your team, with your co-founders, is massively important. So I see this exercise as hugely important for anybody who's starting a business with anybody else on their team or as their co-founder. Without further ado, we'll dive right in and watch the trailer. And as always, if there are any issues with audio, if you can't hear anything, do let me know in the comments, and we will run from there.
So today we're going to talk about founder issues. The point of the talk is to help you guys be more successful in your relationships with your founders. 65% of startups fail because of people issues. You're eternally optimistic. This is why you've become entrepreneurs, which is powerful. How you navigate through those problems is critical. And it talks a lot about how you can have difficult conversations. And it's a skill to learn how to have one without creating an argument. Learning how to be a player, not a victim. Some of you guys heard me say this last time I was in here, right? Saying, what am I doing to create the situation rather than what is that person doing that's affecting me? You have no idea what that person's experience is, what their perspective is. And pretending that the world is the way that you see it and that's truth is ontological arrogance. Trust is paramount. You guys are in this, man. It is really serious stuff. It's also really powerful stuff. It's not just business, it's your life.
It's a powerful statement. It's not just business, it's your life. So it is something that you're going to be working through, whether you're working with a co-founder, working with other coworkers. This is something I think will be valuable for you. So there are a number of sessions today, or a number of videos, but they're a bit shorter than some of the others. So the things we're going to go through is avoid co-founder relationship fails, get your house in order, understand your co-founders, set clear roles, discuss the elephant in the room, build trust with your co-founder, and co-founder conversation exercise. So there is actually an exercise at the end. What I will say is we go through all of the videos that we now watch below. Following that, for anybody who hasn't been here before, we then go to the Do the Exercise tab right here. And in the Do the Exercises tab, it actually has a worksheet that you can work through to go through a lot of the things that they talk about. So don't feel like you need to manage and know everything about how to do these exercises. It's learn and then we apply afterwards. And if anybody has questions from previous sessions or things coming back, bring them back in. I'm happy to answer anything you guys have today. And because I am very much learning alongside you today as we develop in through this specific session, I'm going to give you one of my top tips for note taking. I always, at all times, have 3 different color pens. I have my black, I have my purple, I have my green. The black is for just kind of the overall heading to start the page and then some little notes in between. The green green is my topics or definitions. So these are key words that I need to remember. And then the purple is the little bits of explaining out whatever the green identified. I find that when I look back at my notebook, if I have a number of different colors in it, I'm more likely to remember it. So there's, off the top, my top tip for you guys. So without further ado, we are going to start by avoiding co-founder relationship fails. About 65% of startups will break up due to people issues. In this section, you'll learn about the 3 main co-founder fail categories that cause a majority of people issues and why you need to start paying attention to this relationship. Here we go.
All right, so today we're going to talk about founder issues. And I want to apologize for in advance because usually when I give this talk, the mood in the room tends to go down a lot. But know that the point of the talk is to help you guys be more successful in your relationships with your founders. All right, so first thing is that about half of you guys will break up at some point in the next few years. Holy shit. So think about that for a minute. That is going to potentially kill your business. If not kill your business, it's certainly going to be a painful experience for you guys to go through. I'm going to try to help you guys not be that company, right? Statistically, 65% of startups fail because of people issues. Think about that for a minute. It's not because of product market fit. It's not because of funding. It's not because of something else. It's because of people issues. Your business will die. Like 65% of you guys are going to die because of this. Isn't that intense? Isn't that scary? How many of you guys are paying attention to the relationship with your founder right now? Who's actually putting time and resources into it? Awesome. I love that. That's great. You guys won't be that company. You're in the 35%. I was not a math major. The stuff I'm going to walk you through today is going to help you be in the 35%, not the 65%. All right. There are 3 fail categories. I know, I love this picture. Relationship problems, role and decision-making problems, and reward problems. And we're going to talk a little bit about all 3.
So decision-making problems and reward problems. They're going to talk about all of them. I believe there was a third. I was busy taking notes. So we're moving forward. Part 2, get your house in order. Getting your co-founder and investor agreements in order can help you navigate through growth and tough times. In this section, you'll learn about key business items to get in order in case a co-founder decides to leave. So this is something I am all about templates all the time. If I have a template, I can make things organized and I can work from it. So the different agreements that you may have are the templates for your co-founder relationship. So they're hugely important, and I'm sure that we are going to discuss it as we go throughout.
All right, so the very first thing that you want to do is understand your odds. I told you your odds. Your odds are 65% that your business is going to fail because of people issues. When you understand that and you internalize it and you take steps to avoid it, you can be in the 35%, right? But what happens is a lot of companies go, that's not going to happen to me. You're entrepreneurs. You're eternally optimistic. This is why you've become entrepreneurs, which is powerful. But when you understand that these are very, very real problems that you could face and will face, not could face, that you will face, how you navigate through those problems is critical. When you embrace that and you understand it, you radically reduce the likelihood of it happening. So the very first thing that you should do is say, this will happen to me. What steps do I need to be taking now, and what muscle do I need to be creating now in order to prevent my company from failing because of founder issues between me and my co-founders? All right, most of you guys have done this already, but getting your docs in order is actually really important. So if you haven't gotten your docs in order, I mean, everybody that you've ever promised equity to ever has been documented, right? There is vesting. 100% of people have vesting, yes? Yes. Okay, yes, awesome, love that. Let's just talk about vesting for a second. Anybody not on a 4-year vest? What kind of vest are you on? Oh, no vesting. No vesting, interesting.
It's a joke.
Oh.
We're a nonprofit.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. You don't count. You don't count. So if vesting is 4 years, but how long does it take the average company to exit? 7 to 10, right? How long does the average marriage last? 7 years, right? Why is vesting 4 years? Why is that? Anybody know?
I feel like it's you past the halfway point.
Yeah, but think about that for a second. If you, let's just say for a second that you and a co-founder each split 50% of the business, and after 2 years, the co-founder walks with 25% of the business, right? That's a big number. Do you think that investors are going to want to fund that company? No. Do you think that you're going to have enough equity in the cap table in order to bring the right kind of people on that can help grow the business to the next level? Is that in the founder who's left best interests? Not necessarily, right? I would actually encourage you guys to reconsider 4-year vests. For what it's worth, most investors, when they come in, at least in a Series A, if not sooner, will reset the vesting schedule anyway. So there is a little sort of protection built into the business. But no, just know that it isn't just about, if you leave, it's not just about what you take with you. It's about actually damaging the equity that you have in the company that you left, their ability to actually grow. Because they won't get funding and they won't have enough equity in the cap table to bring on the right people that they need. Reconsider longer vest cycles. It's in protection of both the company and the person that is leaving.
Cool. So for anyone who is not quite as familiar with the entrepreneurial lingo and the term vesting, vesting is earning your shares across a certain period of time in a business that you are a part of. So often when co-founders set up a business, they're looking at how much equity or value in the company should each co-founder get. And usually there's a timeline for realizing that value. So you may have, say you're ending up at 10% of the company's equity, you may start at 2, then get to 5, then get to 7, then get to 10. So you may go over your 4 years, you earn a certain amount of equity over time, and then you're fully vested when you reach that full amount that is agreed upon from the start. And an important thing about vesting is that it allows you to get buy-in from your co-founders. So this is why that is a hugely important thing to agree upon up front. Now, in terms of how to actually negotiate how much each co-founder gets, I believe we might be going through that as we go forward, but I do think that there are some exercises in the exercises to follow that might help you with that. Or if anybody has specific questions, feel free to reach out to me directly or ask in the comments, and I'll see if I can point you in the right direction. So with that, I am going to bring us to part 3, understand your co-founder. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses, goals, and needs of your co-founder can help avoid the wear and tear on the relationship. In this section, you'll learn how to develop a healthy rhythm of communication to keep your company moving forward. Very good.
Understanding your co-founders. And this just doesn't mean like how they take their coffee, right? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Oftentimes, we start businesses with people that are similar to us. It's comfortable. You trust them, right? They're similar to you. But what does that mean, similarity? Oftentimes, it means overlapping skill sets, right? Anybody really similar in skill set with their founder, like you're both engineers? Yeah, something like that. Or you're both business people, or you're both sales and marketing, or something like that. So oftentimes we start companies with people that we have overlapping skill sets, but what that leads to is in gigantic gaps of skill in the business and a lot of stepping on toes, and that stepping on toes leads to a lot of arguments, right? So it's okay that, and I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't start a business with somebody that has a skill set as you, but what I am suggesting is that understanding that for the two of you to sit down and have a conversation about who does what, to get really comfortable about drawing lines in the sand, about responsibilities and ownership, and then to be respectful of one another about decision-making on those areas. So just because you're a 50% owner or 33% owner in the business doesn't necessarily mean that you get a 33% say or 50% say in an area that you're not quote unquote responsible for. And learning that trust and respect with each other, even if you're like, yep, that's the wrong decision, but it's your call and I gotta let you make it, and I still back the business, right? Those are really important conversations to have. Strengths and weaknesses is actually really also generally really important because you have to make sure, is somebody like the big visionary creative guy and then somebody else the tactical person? Awesome. But if both of you are hugely, if both of you are visionaries, who's doing the stuff? How is it getting done? It's okay that you're both the same way, but it's not okay to not talk about how the rest of it happens. If you're both really highly tactical and you're not great at seeing past 6 or 12 months, getting help with how to see past 6 or 12 months, otherwise there's no vision for the business. The opposite is true too, right? I got this grandiose way of how we're gonna dominate the world, but I don't know how we're gonna how we're gonna actually take the steps to do it. I've seen personal goals really tank businesses, especially when acquisition offers come through. Understanding each person's personal goals out of the business. If one person really wants to IPO and the other person just is really looking for a quick exit, those are extremely important conversations to have now, and talk about what you will do in each scenario, right? If you've got a founder that wants a quick exit because they need, they want to put $1 million into the bank, awesome. When you guys get an acquisition offer or when you raise capital, there might be things that you can do to help buy the founder out of equity to help get them to the place where they're meeting their personal goals while still allowing the founder that wants to IPO achieve theirs. But having those conversations now is actually really important. Same thing with pacing. I've seen this one where you got one person that might not have a family at home and they're in the office 22 hours a day, and another person that needs to be home for dinner, right? There is nothing wrong with either one of those situations, but they will start to wear and tear on the emotional relationship between them because it will feel unfair. So talking about how you're going to handle that, right? Having those conversations about that pacing and time in the office and the schedule when people want to work and how they want to work, all that's actually really important, because if you don't talk about those things, they start to fester. Finances and salary in there too. I've seen where you've got one founder that doesn't need the income and another one that does. How you deal with that, because it will breed unfairness in feelings. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with needing a salary. There's nothing wrong with not needing a salary. Not feeling guilty over that, or feeling guilty, not okay. They were feelings that happen, but they don't have to happen if you have a conversation about them and how you deal with them. And developing culture, I've seen this one too, where one founder does all the hiring. And what happens is then all the people that they hire look a lot like that founder. And then the other founder actually doesn't feel like they even belong part of their own business anymore. So having a conversation about what kind of culture you want to build, if you actually start with that conversation, are we a really transparent culture or are we a really closed culture? Neither one is wrong, they're just different, right? Do we want to, do we want to start our days at 10 and end at 8, or do we want to be a 9-to-5 company? Having those conversations from a cultural perspective is really great. Because of this talk, I've actually had a couple companies that come up to me and said, yeah, we actually do that. One founder does all the hiring. And what we have done is talk really specifically about the culture that we want to set, and then have the other co-founder interview at the final stages. And that way they feel like they have a say in our developing relationship with the people that they hire. Understanding your co-founder is actually really hard at this stage of your business because you guys are so tactically oriented. We got to get the next sale. We got to get the code launched. We got to get that marketing campaign done. That you don't spend a lot of time trying to figure each other out and how you guys will work together and in the business. So Brad Feld has that book, The Startup Life, thank you, and where he talks about being married to an entrepreneur, or having a significant other as an entrepreneur. I actually think that book is really powerful, not just with intimate relationships, but with your co-founder relationships too. So having a breakfast or a life dinner once a month where you just check in and how you doing? You seem like you're struggling. Are you okay? What's going on? Right? Your home life 100% affects your business. So whoever says it's just business has never been in a startup, right? It's not just business, it's your life. And you're one person. So developing those rhythms of communication between you now will create the scaffolding and the muscle to help you get through when stuff is really hard, when stuff turns south, because it will. It's not going to always be great. When stuff isn't going well or you guys are arguing, when you build muscle now, when stuff is going well, you'll be able to get through those sections a lot more easy.
Yep, so moral of the story is having these discussions early and often is massively important. Before you even dive down the road of working with a co-founder, there are a lot of key discussions that you need to have. But some of them, like, you can have as you go. Like, the one is that's massive is the culture discussion. What type of company do you want to be internally? There are big companies, big corporations that spend a lot of money on a human resources department, but no early stage startup has the budget or the time for a dedicated human resources department. You are that. So you are building the culture within your own organization, and it's on you to have those conversations and to start them. Another key thing I wanted to point out that just is really hit home for me there, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people before, is it is okay if you and your co-founder have the same skill set. But what's not okay is to not talk about it and talk about how you're going to get other things done. So if you are discussing, hey, we're both business-minded people, but we have a technical product, right? Okay, there's a hurdle there in that you need to have a technical product developed, but that can just be looking at, okay, what is the budget that we need to be able to hire on the skills to develop that product? Or do we need to talk about how we might bring in a technical co-founder because we don't necessarily have the funds up front to get there? Those are the discussions that you need to have. There's no wrong starting team. There's just a wrong way to manage that starting team. So I hope that pulls a little bit of the key points out of there in my view as to what I see as key, but it is all about just having open lines of communication. And I think that a lot of these talks and a lot of these exercises are going to help facilitate you through that. So part number 4, we're on to it, set clear roles. Co-founder roles will change over time, and identifying who does what and how you make decisions for the company is crucial to maintaining a healthy relationship. In this section, you'll learn how to set clear roles with your co-founder as the stakes get higher. And that's key. As the stakes get higher and higher and higher and you're growing, it gets harder and harder to make those decisions, have those conversations. Whereas if you have them up front, it's a lot easier. So we'll jump in here.
I love this picture because she's like 90. And she's on the parallel bars. I don't know if you can see. She's a gymnast. And there's another photo of her where she's like doing a handstand on the parallel bars. And like she's breaking all stereotypes and roles, right? We talked a little bit about this in the last slide, but understanding what your specific roles are and how those roles will change over time. Having the conversation now about how your roles will change. So we see this one where I'm the idea guy, so I'm the CEO. Or I'm the idea woman, so I'm the CEO. But where did that role come from? I mean, the CEO is usually the person that likes meetings, right? And likes to organize board meetings and fundraise, not necessarily the creative type. If you sit down and you go, okay, what are our skill sets? And then what roles are best suited for our skill sets? That's a much better way to approach who does what role, rather than I'm the idea person, therefore I'm the CEO. And having those conversations about decisions. We talked a little bit about that before. But I'll see this one where it's usually because of a breakdown of trust, where my sphere of responsibility is here and his sphere of responsibility is here, but I am second guessing his decisions that he's making over here. And how does that make this person feel? Developing that level of deep trust with each other is really important, and also acceptance when you don't agree with a decision that's made. It's really hard and also really powerful. Because, by the way, that means the reciprocal is true too. I guarantee that you're making decisions that the other person doesn't agree with, but when you set the example of, I'm gonna back your decision even if I don't agree with it, the reciprocal will happen, and that becomes a powerful place where you learn and support each other through mistakes. Egalitarian versus hierarchical. In the early days of a startup, it's very egalitarian, right? You guys sit down in a room and you make decisions together. You feel like a true partnership. As the business scales, that becomes less and less likely because there's more and more people. So you have to, it's harder to get everybody in the room. You can't make decisions that quickly. The communication chain down the stack becomes a lot harder. So you have, as the company grows, learning how to scale from egalitarian decision-making to hierarchical decision-making is actually a really painful experience that most companies go through. Talking about that now and understanding that now is actually really good because that helps you figure out whose roles are what and how you're making decisions and how you will make decisions when you both just can't sit in the room every day and talk about every decision the company needs to make.
Yep. So decision making is key. The one thing I wrote down there is the key takeaway: apply roles to skills, not the other way around. So you want to look at the skills that you guys have on your teams and then apply the roles that need to get done, the jobs that need to get done to people. So you could even do something, an exercise on a whiteboard where you put up the skills that everybody has, the skill sets, in little boxes for them, then write down on another whiteboard with a bunch of post-its kind of the different jobs that you need to get done, the actual work that needs to get done, and then apply those across almost blindly. Obviously, you're going to know who you're giving it to, but that is how skills should be allocated. If somebody comes in and says, I am the ideas person or the business person, but doesn't have those skills, it doesn't match as well. And over time, that will deteriorate because everybody's always second guessing each other. So it's a really key point to take away from this. So part 5, discussing the elephant in the room. If there's something your co-founder is doing that bothers you, it's best to communicate these concerns early on and in a respectful way. In this section, you'll learn key tactics to having difficult conversation and managing disagreements before the relationship blows up. I think this is more than likely going to apply far beyond co-founder relationships, but it definitely does here.
This is really hard to do and it takes practice, but talking about the elephants that are in the room before they become elephants. It's so funny. This is true if you're married or you're in a relationship or whatever, but learning how to have a conversation with somebody early before it festers is so important to moving through those problems, because then they never really become problems. You address them early, right? I show up at work every day at 8 o'clock and you don't come in until noon. Can we talk about that? Because I just don't feel like you're taking me seriously or you're taking the company seriously. Are really important conversations to have before they totally fester and blow up. There's a book called Difficult Conversations that I read a while ago, and it's actually a really powerful book. I recommend this book to a lot of people. And it talks a lot about how you can have difficult conversations, and it's a skill to learn how to have one without creating an argument. The main takeaway from the book, which I'll tell you a little bit about, is learning how to be a player, not a victim. Some of you guys heard me say this last time I was in here, right? But saying, what am I doing to create the situation, rather than what is that person doing that's affecting me? Taking the player stance versus a victim stance, taking a learning stance. Why do you feel that way? What have I done to create an environment where you don't feel like you can talk to me? What have I done that's created an environment that feels like you can not respond to my emails, right? Or something like that. Taking the player stance is a great way to have those difficult conversations, because then you're learning. You're not putting the person on the defensive. As soon as a person is on the defensive, it's over. Conversation sinks quickly. Being conscious. Why do you answer the phone? Do we answer the phone because it rings? Why do we answer the phone? You answer the phone because at that moment in time, you choose that that is a more important action than whatever the other thing is that you are doing, right? The point that I'm making is, if you are conscious, you are not a victim of stimuli. You make decisions on how you act and react to situations, right? You do not need to get angry at somebody. You choose to get angry. And when you can learn to separate yourself from the immediate reaction that you want to take, like picking up the phone, right? Or like yelling back. When you can be conscious in those moments, you can stop explosive situations from happening. You react out of anger because you choose to, not because the person has made you angry. You are choosing to react out of anger. And when you understand taking that player stance and being conscious about your actions and your behavior in any sort of situation with your co-founder, you can learn to move through problems much, much easier before they become antagonistic. Being intellectually honest is part of that. We talk about radical self-inquiry a lot. Being honest, like, are you being the jerk here? You probably are. And when you can say, okay, if I hadn't have done that, then the person wouldn't have reacted in this way. When you can be intellectually honest about the own role that you are playing in the situation, it becomes much more powerful, right? That allows you to get into that learning stance. It allows you to get into that non-antagonistic stance. It allows you to be more conscious in the situation. Ontologically arrogant, I actually love this word. I think it's a really cool word. Ontologically arrogant means that you think the world is the way that it is And it is only that way, right? If you are a nocturnal creature and you're never awake during the day, you think the world is dark. And you have no experience to suggest otherwise. And you will get into a vehement argument with a creature that is a diurnal creature over whether the earth is light or dark, right? You don't experience anything else, you don't know. You have no idea what that person's experience is, what their perspective is. And pretending that the world is the way that you see it and that's truth is ontological arrogance, right? Honestly, I grew up in a middle-class house. I slept in a safe bed every night. I had food on my table every day. I was not worried about my safety. I was not worried about eating. I do not have the perspective of what somebody that lives in a war-torn country must feel like. I can try, but I don't have that perspective. So pretending that I know what they think and they feel and that my reality is theirs is unfair. It's an extreme example, but one that's true for you, right? If you're dealing with a co-founder that has anxiety issues, you cannot possibly understand what they might be going through. You can try, but you can't possibly understand. All you can do is accept. So getting out of ontological arrogance and understanding that we are all ontologically arrogant creatures, but attempting not to be, is how you can start to respect people's differences of approaching situations, even though they might be very different from your own. The last little trick on here is state facts, not judgments. I'm really bad about this because I'm Greek and Greeks tend to be very judgmental. But saying things like your marketing campaign sucks is a judgment, right? It is not a fact. That person might think it's awesome, which by the way is their opinion too. But saying that, hey, you see how the pixels don't line up, the image is over here and the words are over here and the colors don't match? Those are facts. And pointing to facts, not opinions, is a great way to have a conversation without putting somebody on the defensive.
It's about stating facts, not opinions. A really interesting section. I think she treaded us up to there when she said you choose to get angry, but I think she explained it very well. It's taking the player's perspective. You're looking at it as someone who wants to make this better, take personal responsibility. How can I improve? You know, the famous song, Start with the Man in the Mirror. If you can find a way to figure out how you're going to fix the problem or how you can change to make things better, you're always going to be on a better foot. So next section, number 6, build trust with your co-founder. Without co-founder trust, your company could be headed for a breakup. In this section, you'll learn how to build a foundation of trust with your co-founder in good and difficult times through honest and clear communication. Sounds right to me.
I love this quote. It's like one of my favorite quotes. We do not see things as they are, we see things as we are. And if you can embrace that, it's really powerful. Trust is paramount. You guys are in this, man. You probably spend more time with your co-founder than you do with anybody else, your team, right? And you have to trust each other. The moment that trust starts to break down, you guys are on a downward spiral that is really hard to get out of. Really, really hard. And the way that you create trust is through vulnerability and through honesty and through conversations early